This video is sponsored by Squarespace. You can make your own beautiful website or online store with this all-in-one platform. Hi everyone, this is another sketchbook session video where I fill in some pages in my sketchbook and talk about what I'm drawing. And if you want to draw while you watch this, feel free. You can do anything while watching this. I think a lot of people draw alongside me, which I think is pretty cool. But what I'm doing first here is I usually like to go back in my sketchbook and fill out some pages that aren't completely full yet with some sketches. So I kind of like to begin my sketchbook sessions by doing this. I like to go back in the pages that I've already filled and fill in blank areas, add to sketches, and do some drawing that is a little bit like more low-key than drawing something completely new. I think adding to old sketches can be a good way to warm up for the day and not feel like too intimidated by a brand new blank space in your sketchbook. So I decided to go back at this page that I drew in a couple of days prior, and I was just drawing some like random animals from my Pinterest and drawing from references, and there was a lot of birds there and some ducks, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of add to some of the sketches and define them a bit more. And the markers that I'm using are water-based brush markers by Ohuhu, and I really like them because they just feel very like not intimidating to use because they're relatively on the more inexpensive side. They don't bleed through the page, and I like to use them to just fill in large areas and add color and interest to my sketchbook pages. And the pencil crayons that I'm using are the Faber-Castell Polychromos. I recently ordered a whole bunch more, so now I have a lot of colors to work with. I just really like their texture compared to the Prismacolor Premier pencils that I've been using for years. These ones are a little bit more hard, harder lead, so they don't come off onto the paper as easily. They hold their point a little bit better, and you can just get finer details with them. The Prismacolor Premier soft core ones, the ones that I used to use for years, they're good for if you want a really thick laydown of color, so I still like to use both interchangeably. But the Faber-Castell Polychromos are just kind of that like perfect balance between hard and soft lead, because you can like get nice textures, you can get details, you can blend them together. Like you can blend colors with each other without it being all like smeary, kind of like how the softer pencils can be. Like when you press really hard, it sort of like blends them together and it looks a little bit blurred. But with the Faber-Castell ones, it's easier to get a more like, I don't know, grainy texture with them, and that's what I really like. And I actually like to use them on smoother paper than this, but this is my sketchbook, so this is what we're working with. I actually recently got sent a stone paper sketchbook. They just sent it to me as a gift. Like they didn't want me to make a video necessarily. They just like wanted me to try it out. So I actually used that recently with my wax pastels and my pencil crayons. And it's actually so nice to use them on a smooth paper because the way you like lay down the color, it's so smooth and there's like no texture. It's a very unique experience to put color down on such a smooth surface. It's like you can really like, it's really easy to put the color down. I used to hear like a lot of people like to use more textured surfaces for a pencil crayon because it like picks up the color better, but I don't know, the stone paper picks it up pretty well. It has a nice texture to it, but it's also very smooth at the same time, and you can blend things really easily. It's just a really nice surface, and I'm very excited to use it as my next sketchbook after the one I'm currently on, but I need to keep drawing in this one because it's very large. I think I got a sketchbook that is a little bit too big, so it's going to take a bit of time for me to fill this one. I think I just prefer like a more pocket-sized one. Well, not pocket, but more of like a 5x7 type of size, maybe like 6x8, that sort of dimension. I think that's the sweet spot for me, and I need to remember that for future sketchbooks because this one's a little bit awkward to take along with me. And on this page with all these pencil doodles, what I was trying to do was design new patch designs because I really want to make new patches for a next shop update. I think patches are a really fun item to have, and people seem to really enjoy the patches. And another bonus with patches is that I can ship them out at a relatively cheap price for people. It's only like $2 to $3 Canadian to ship out patches because they're very flat. I can send them as letter mail, and that means they're more accessible for people because it's more affordable to get them, and they're still like a nice item. It's like a step above stickers. You can like put it on your bags or your clothes. I just think patches are really fun, and they feel very like permanent because they can become part of another item that you own because they're iron-on. I know some people like to stitch them on as well for more temporary placement, but I just really want to make more patches, and I actually have a lot of designs digitally on my iPad. I've been working on them a lot, and I'm really excited to submit an order soon of all the designs that I've come up with. And I always like overthink things. I'm like, oh, I want to make a patch with this certain feel, but then like I can't really like find exactly what I'm looking for, but then one day I might doodle something really quick and it might be exactly what I was wanting. And it's also really hard to tell what's going to be like what people are going to like. I think every once in a while, I like to do a design that's sort of for me. So one of the designs I'm working on is like a worm, and he has a little like travel sack attached to a stick. It's like a little worm with a bag. And I might put on it like I eat dirt or gardener or like garden helper or something. But I just think like, I think worms are really cute personally. I don't know why. I just think they're just like little guys that live outside in the soil, and they're just like squishy. I don't know. I just think worms are pretty cute and they're fun to draw. And I think they're kind of funny to like personify and like add faces and like give them personalities. And I like the pink color because it goes well with green, and then you can have like a worm with some plants sort of thing. And I'm excited about that. I'm not going to share them yet until I decide what I'm actually going to order. I did share a bunch of like ideas on my Patreon to show people what I've been working on. But I'm not going to share them here. I just want to tell you what I'm thinking. There's going to be some patches coming up soon. Well, not soon. It takes a couple of months to get them made, but I'm very excited. Now to thank this video's sponsor, which is Squarespace. As you probably know, Squarespace is an online platform where you can build your own website, your own online store, a blog. It can be whatever you want it to be. I use my Squarespace website for my portfolio. It's like a little landing page for people to find me and to also find all my social media. And I recently switched to using their Fluid Engine editor. It's an easy way to drag and drop different elements on your site, and they automatically snap to a grid. So you can really customize the layout and make sure everything is aligned nicely on your site. They also have so many templates to choose from, and they're a great starting point for your website because you can customize them to your heart's content, change the colors, the fonts, and really make it fit your brand. If you're interested in trying it out, go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/JelArts and you can get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now on to the video. Another thing that I really wanted to draw today when I did this page, I was seeing some things on my Pinterest feed of like people with like animals sort of like sitting on their heads or like around their shoulders, and I just think it's really fun to draw people and animals interacting with each other. And like it's funny to see like a frog sitting on a girl's head. It's just like I just find it a really like quirky and cute concept for an image, so I wanted to try recreating these. And I pinned them to my drawing reference Pinterest board if you want to see the photos that I used or try to recreate them yourself. The first one was an attempt, but it didn't really, well, not the first one, the second one, the blue girl, it was an attempt at drawing like a frog on her head, but it didn't really turn out. I wanted to give it a second try, so I just tried to make the portrait look a little bit more presentable because I kind of messed up the mouth a little bit and I made the eyes a little bit wonky. But I tried to sort of salvage it. I like to give each sketch a fair chance to be salvaged, unless I'm just like totally hopeless about it. Sometimes I'll cover sketches up. But the next one is the same like model, but a different angle of her with the frog on her head, and I wanted to try drawing it. It's more of a side profile, and I was kind of like struggling doing observational things, like where you draw from photos to learn. It was kind of a struggle this day, I think, because I was filming myself. Sometimes I find it hard to sort of get in the zone when I'm filming myself drawing, but it's kind of my whole thing. I sort of need to be filming what I'm drawing. But it's hard to like, because I like to look at my phone to see the photo if I'm using a reference, which I was today. and it's hard to keep it out of frame because I like to have it beside what I'm working on so my eyes don't have to move as far to see like my drawing and the photo. Because when you're actually drawing from references or from photos or from real life, you are doing just as much looking at the photo as you are drawing. Like, you're supposed to be looking at it almost more than you're actually drawing if you want it to be really accurate. That's kind of what I heard in life drawing classes when I was in art school a while ago. You really want to make sure you're looking just as much, if not more, than you're drawing if you like are really going for accuracy and to like study things and learn the forms. I know I draw animals a lot, but every once in a while I just like to go and try to draw people and get back into that, because sometimes there's just something so satisfying about drawing a human face and like experimenting with the hair color and the hairstyles and the clothes and expressions and just like expressing yourself through that. That's why I really like drawing people every once in a while. And I think like people can relate to it more because it's a human being. Like, if all you draw are animals, they might not be able to relate to it as much. And also that's why I like to draw people interacting with animals, because a lot of people have pets and they like animals. So it's sort of like you can put yourself in the illustration. Like, you can think like, oh, that's me because I like frogs, or like, oh, I wish that was me. I actually had the idea to draw someone with a frog sitting on their head, but then this photo happened to appear. So I was like, of course I need to draw this photo. And also it's like a very large frog, and it's not my usual like stylized frog. I tried to sort of draw it true to what he looked like, a very large, chunky frog, which are the best kinds of frogs. They're so cute. Also, this was one of those days where I wasn't like super connected to what I was drawing. I felt like things were kind of turning out a little bit wonky here and there. Maybe I wasn't warmed up properly, or the camera was throwing me off for some reason, but I think I just get insecure when I draw people, because it's like so obvious when something's wrong with the human form, because we see people every single day. We're very familiar with their anatomy just based on looking. So when you draw people, I think it's easier to pick out what's wrong with it than animals. Like, I think animals have more like forgiveness for when things look wrong. Like, you have a little bit more room for error. So maybe that's why I like drawing animals so much. You can really like, I feel a little bit more free drawing them, and not drawing like a person and then having someone be like, oh, who are you drawing? Is that you? Why don't they have hair yet? Are they not wearing clothes? And it's like, I'm just drawing the guidelines. It's always like a source of like, I don't want people to watch me draw people. I don't care if they watch me draw animals, but I don't want them to watch me draw people. Another thing I like to do when I'm sketching is limit my colors, because I find I can get very like overwhelmed if I choose too many colors, and sketches end up being easier and turning out a little bit more like pleasing to the eye if you have a limited color palette. So for some of these, like the one with the dog and the girl, I chose like yellows and greens, and I tried to sort of like use the green as a dark color, use the yellow as where I'm indicating where the shadows will be. It's not actually that scientific. I was just kind of like messing around and just like sketching and seeing if I can make things look good. That's sort of what this whole spread was. Like, I didn't really have a rhyme or reason. I just felt like I was kind of drawing and things like weren't turning out exactly how I wanted, but I just kept going and tried to salvage things. And I think the page turned out pretty interesting in the end because it's crammed full of drawings. And I like when my sketchbook turns out that way. It just makes me feel like I'm making the most use of the page available and like using it to the best of my ability. And I get excited to like flip through it later and see like all the drawings I did and seeing like how I made the most of it. I decided to add a brown into the sketch just to pull out the dark colors, draw her hair with it, add some more details around the sketch and just like pull out finer details. It's kind of nice to work light to dark, so I started with like the light yellow, and then I did some green details, added the brown to make things pop, did a little pink background, and then sometimes I like to take the background color and incorporate it into the sketch. And it's good to just like use the colors in little places here and there, and it kind of pulls everything together. But each sketch I sort of decide like I want the color palette to just be these colors, and then limit yourself, and I just find it's less overwhelming that way. Then I saw a picture of a dog with this like hood on, and I just think it's so funny when people dress up their dogs in like these silly little hats and hoods that sort of like hide their ear and like go around their little round head. And the dog just looks like happy because he doesn't really know what's going on. He's just getting attention and he likes the little hat that he's wearing. And I wanted to try drawing it, but I kind of messed it up because I did a underdrawing and a sketch and I liked the way that turned out. But then I sort of like defined it with marker, but it wasn't like the fine point of the marker. It was the thick brush nib, and it just sort of started to look what's the word, like messy or too loose. I still think it's like cute, but it's not really what I wanted. I guess I was just trying stuff out, mixing the medias together. I think using marker and pencil crayon is a really nice combo. Oh, and then I decided to color the dog in darker, and it kind of like made it look even worse because there wasn't enough contrast and you couldn't really tell what was going on. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move on to another drawing. And I actually really like the way this other one turned out. I pretty much, I blocked it in with a pastel. I can't remember if I used a photo for this or not, but I've drawn this type of dog so many times, it's like burned into my brain anyways. But I blocked it in with a pastel, and then I took a similar color of a pencil crayon, and I added further details and sort of like blended into it. And I kept doing that sort of technique and eventually had this cute little sketch of a dog. And I just really like the textures in this one. There's something about it that really speaks to me. It's the sort of style that I wish I could do an entire painting like this. I just like the mix of the harsh lines, the grainy texture, the softer lines. I think the contrast between all the different textures is like exactly the type of thing that I've been trying to do, but I seem to only be able to do it on a small scale in small little doodles in my sketchbook. And then I added a little marker background, and honestly, I'm looking at it now and I think that made it worse. But I might go back in with another color, I'm not sure. But I had a lot of fun with that one. And the next one with this gray background was a mess up. But because my pastels are water soluble, I can just like put water on top of them and make the background, like I can blend the color out until it's just a solid color. And then I went on top of the damp paper with the pastel because I was like, I want to see what this feels like to draw on like damp paper with the water soluble pastel. And it was kind of weird. Like I don't think I would recreate this, but I was just trying stuff out. And I took a marker on top to do some outlines, which I would not recommend because I think the pastel will clog the marker. But I kind of like abuse these markers every time I use them, and they're not like artist quality supplies for finished paintings. They're for me to mess around in my sketchbook, so I mess around with them a lot. And I like giving cats little spots of darker colors. I just think giving animals texture and giving their like fur spots and like different colors of fur all throughout just really adds interest to a drawing, and it's something that I like to do a lot because I find it hard to make an animal that is one solid color look good. Like you have to add some sort of texture and some sort of color variation to make it look good, because I think in real life, even if a dog or a cat is all one single color, there's still going to be like a bit of variation, and if there isn't, then I don't know. But I just think like it's always good to do that. Like nothing is truly one solid color. Like the lighting will make it look different, and you can draw things however you want when it comes to drawing. Like it's not like you're taking a photo of something. You can depict things however you want. So you can add like colors and textures here and there to make the piece like work. And that's something that I've allowed myself to do, especially if I'm like looking at a reference photo and the animal doesn't have like patterns on its fur. I might just like add little spots here and there and like add little textures just to like, it just makes it look a little bit better. So it's not all one single tone. And near the end of this video, I'm just kind of adding little doodles here and there, filling in blank spaces. I think I felt a little bit camera shy, honestly, this time. Well, not really camera shy, but it was sort of like, I kind of just wanted to draw without the camera, but I also wanted to share like this little spread that I worked on. I don't think there's anything too stand out about it. Just another day in my sketchbook, honestly, but If you drew anything while watching this, let me know. Let me know what sketchbook you're currently using or if there's anything that you're working on. And let me know which sketch is your favorite, as always. I would love to hear. I don't really know which one is my favorite because I have mixed feelings about this, but I do like the overall feeling of the page. It's like a very like collage. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I love when sketchbooks are like that. I think my favorite is probably the dog in the middle, but I'm not sure. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I love doing sketchbook videos for you. They're so chill and fun to film, despite sometimes not wanting to film, but at the end of the day, it is pretty fun to film and look back and share how I use my sketchbook. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.